Welcome to the chosen bloom. When a throne is cast in your path to block your ascent, remember this truth: royalty does not stumble. Instead, it gathers the rubble, lays the foundation, and builds an empire higher than before. That is the mystery of divine balance. What was meant to sabotage you becomes the very pressure that propels you forward. Life does not settle accounts with noise, but with precision. And in that quiet justice, the scales always return to level. Those who once whispered of your fall will soon suffocate on the silence of your rise. The universe does not miss. Energy returns home dressed as lessons its sender never wished to learn. And you were never destined for ruin. You were designed for resilience. Just as fire refines gold and pressure births diamonds, betrayal has forged your unshakable core. Every mocking voice, every doubting glance, every attempt to dim your light only became fuel for your becoming. Critics orbit you like moths drawn to a flame. They cannot turn away, though your very existence disturbs their chaos. Your peace unsettles them. Your silence thunders louder than their insults ever could. You are the fracture in their illusion of control. The chosen are not merely survivors, they are disruptors. They walk through fire and emerge untouchable, fireproof, crowned by the very flames meant to consume them. And when heaven aligns with your growth, no betrayal, no lie, no weapon raised against you can stand. You carry a new energy now. It cannot be hidden. That glow undeniable. That silence immovable. This is not a shift in attitude. It is your rebirth. And those who once feasted on your need to please will feel the sting of your freedom. Before we step deeper into this awakening shaking your very reality, pause for a moment. Do 3 things like this message: subscribe and mark the number 11 in the comments to seal this frequency. If your spirit has been stirring, if you've sensed a change moving through you, know this: it is not your imagination. It is your ascension. Let us begin. Number 1. Stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. There comes a moment when the soul refuses to perform, when you no longer translate your truth for ears that were never listening, only hunting for flaws. You once dimmed your fire into sparks, careful not to burn, only to warm. You softened your tone, trimmed your words, delayed your truth. It was like walking barefoot over glass, bleeding in silence, just to keep peace intact. But that season is over. There are people who demand endless explanations, not because you lack clarity, but because your clarity threatens the illusion of their control. They feign confusion to keep you stuck. And for a time, you played along. You tried to be gentle when you were built to be steel. You begged for permission slips over choices heaven already signed. But now, the cord is cut. Let them mislabel your silence as arrogance, your no as selfishness, your boundaries as betrayal. Those stories belong to them, not you. Your energy is no longer discounted. You stopped explaining because you've finally seen the truth. Some people were never confused. They were simply comfortable with a smaller version of you, the one who never pressed against their insecurity. But a box you've outgrown cannot contain you again. Not anymore. Be honest with yourself. How many nights did you sacrifice to the replay of one sentence, worrying if it offended someone who never valued you in the first place? How many times did you surrender power just to buy the illusion of peace? Too many. And now that ends. Your silence is not surrender. It is strategy. You don't argue with projections. You don't waste breath prying open eyes that refuse to see. Truth is always filtered through insecurity. Even your purest words will be twisted into whatever serves their agenda. So now, you let them sit in their confusion. You don't explain the glow-up. You don't decode the growth. You don't hand blueprints to those who only plan demolition. If they don't see it now, they never will. Because here is the revelation: they never misunderstood you. They simply miss the version of you they could control. You've outgrown the role of translator. Now you speak one language truth. And if that truth sounds too loud for some, then they were never meant to hear it. Let them remain blind. You no longer dim your light just to be seen. Number 2, cut off the selfless act. It was their favorite trap, the way they drained you until you were powerless. You gave everything, your time, your strength, your peace, always at the cost of your own voice. You bit your tongue, not because silence was natural, but because you feared the storm that truth might bring. You thought silence was safety. You thought withholding was protection. But now your silence is no longer a cage, it has become a fortress. Untouchable, unshakable. This silence is no longer born of fear, but of mastery. You no longer explain yourself to ears that were never listening. You no longer argue with people who already scripted their version of you before you spoke. You no longer beg for love or validation from those who never saw your worth. And now, here is the irony: your silence speaks louder than anything you could ever say. They are unsettled. They remember the old you, the one who overgave, over-explained, and sacrificed your peace for their comfort. They are waiting for you to crack, to return, to justify your existence once more. But that satisfaction will never be theirs again. You've discovered the power of saying nothing, and in your silence, you became unpredictable. And unpredictability terrifies those who live to control. It is only when you stop speaking that they start to listen. Distance has become your authority. Boundaries no longer require words, they are enforced by your absence. And in that absence, they finally feel the weight of your power. They don't respect your explanations. They only respect the space you've claimed. Now your silence is a weapon sharper than any reply. You owe no one an explanation, no one a closure, no one a second chance. Your energy is sacred, and not everyone deserves access. So let them wonder. Let them feel the emptiness you leave behind. Because the moment you stopped trying to convince, you stepped into untouchable power. And there is nothing more dangerous, nothing more undeniable than the one who no longer needs to prove a thing. You, chosen one, have stepped fully into your power. And that silence the world once misread, it has become a roar no one can ignore. Number 3, use silence as a weapon. Not everyone deserves your words. There was a time when your silence was a shield, a way to keep peace, even at the cost of your own voice. You bit your tongue, not because you had nothing to say, but because you feared the storm that truth might bring. You believed silence was safety, that withholding was protection. But now, your silence has transformed. It is no longer a cage, it is a fortress. This silence no longer rises from fear. It rises from control. You've stopped explaining yourself to ears that twist your words. You've stopped arguing with people who already wrote their version of you. You no longer beg for respect, validation, or love from those who never valued your worth. And here is the power: your silence speaks louder than any sentence you could form. They are unsettled. They remember the old you, the one who bent, who explained, who carried the weight of keeping everyone comfortable. But now they're rattled, waiting for you to crack, waiting for the apology that will never come. They want to see you bend, but that satisfaction will never be theirs again. You've discovered that the most powerful sound is no sound at all. When you stop speaking, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability terrifies those who feed on control. People only begin to listen when you stop giving them words. They respect distance more than speeches. They bow to boundaries only when explanations end. And so your silence has become your sharpest weapon, sharper than argument, stronger than defense. You owe no one an explanation, no one a closure, no one a second chance. Your energy is sacred, and not everyone deserves access. Let them wonder. Let them sit in the discomfort of your absence. Let them wrestle with the emptiness left behind when you step back. Because the moment you stopped trying to convince, you became untouchable. You became a force no one can control. And that, chosen one, is the highest power. Silence has become your roar, and the world cannot ignore it. Number 4, recognize control, disguised as love. Boundaries must be set before traps are sprung. Once, you made life easy for everyone but yourself. You were the dependable, yes, the constant presence, the one who bent and folded to keep the peace. You never questioned, never challenged, never rippled the water. You fit neatly into whatever mold they pressed you into, never asking, never demanding, never requiring. And for that, they applauded you. They called you kind, loyal, supportive. But here is the truth, they did not care for you. They cared for the version of you that was simple to control. They delighted in your silence, in your lack of boundaries, in your willingness to give while expecting nothing back. You absorbed their chaos without demanding accountability. You were the safety net, the crutch, the endless supply. And as long as you played that role, they covered you with false affection. Then you awakened. You began to think for yourself. You began to choose yourself. You set boundaries. You questioned the script. You said no without apology. And suddenly, the warm facade cracked. Those who once praised your selflessness became cold, distant, resentful. Why? Because you stopped being the version they could bend to their will. Because your growth exposed their manipulation. Now, when they say you've changed, when they accuse you of selfishness, you understand the code. What they mean is, we can no longer use you. They never loved you. They loved the part you played. They loved the easy access to your energy. They loved the you that existed only in service of their needs. That version is gone buried. And here is your strength. Let them be uncomfortable. Because real love never demands that you shrink so someone else can feel large. Real love never disguises control as care. You are not here to be anyone's tool. If they cannot honor your growth, then they were never for you. They only wanted you small, easy to shape, easy to control. But now you see through it, and that sight changes everything. Your silence, your boundaries, your confidence, these carry more weight than anything they could ever offer, because at last, you are choosing you. Number 5, let go of being liked. That was the leash they used to keep you obedient. Once you twisted yourself into knots, bending in every direction just to be acceptable. You longed to be the one everyone could depend on. You didn't mind paying the cost with your peace because you believed that's what good people do. You silenced your truth, bowed low, and carried burdens in the name of keeping others comfortable. But here's the hard truth. You were never being good to yourself. For a time, you stood among people who praised your kindness. But their praise came with a price. They did not want you. They wanted what you gave. Your time, your energy, your effort. They fed on your guilt, your fear of disappointing, your need to be liked. As long as you said yes, while your soul screamed no, everything was smooth. But the moment you stopped playing that role, the mask slipped. And now you see it clearly. You are not losing the right people, you are shedding the wrong ones. The ones who only loved you when you were their servant. The ones who only clung to you when you were a tool for their comfort. Because those who truly love you will never be threatened by your growth. They will celebrate it. So let them talk. Let them label you cold, distant, or difficult. Let them wrestle with the discomfort of your power. Because the truth is simple. If your strength offends them, they were never rooting for you in the first place. And if being unlikable means standing in your truth, owning your worth, and walking away from chaos, then let it be so. Embrace it. You are no longer here to please anyone. You are here to honor yourself. And that alone is what matters now. Number 6, step back and watch. If it collapses without you, It was never real. For years, you believed your bonds were built on shared love, mutual effort, and equal care. You thought friendships lasted because of true understanding. You thought family ties were strong because of unconditional love. You thought relationships endured because both sides carried the weight. But here is the raw truth: you were never just part of those connections. You were the glue. You were the one bending, adjusting, stretching thin to hold it all together. You carried their chaos, their instability, their storms. You were the problem solver, the peacemaker, the first to check in, the first to apologize. You made excuses for their patterns because you hoped they'd change. Out of love, out of duty, out of fear, you shouldered weight that was never yours. You thought without you, everything would fall apart. And then one day you stopped. Maybe exhaustion finally caught you. Maybe your spirit refused to be a mule for burdens it never created. Or maybe you finally saw the truth. You were holding together people who would never lift a finger to hold you. So you stepped back. You stopped absorbing their storms. You stopped fixing what they kept breaking. You stopped being the anchor in seas they refused to calm. And when you did, the cracks showed. The structures crumbled. The chaos you once carried spilled into the open. But understand this, it was never your fault. You were never the problem. They were. The moment you laid down what was not yours to bear, they revealed how weak their foundation truly was. Yes, they blamed you. Yes, they pointed fingers, accused you of destroying what you had only ever sustained. But the truth is plain. They never learned to stand without leaning on your patience, your kindness, your inability to walk away. The collapse only proved what was real and what was illusion. Now you stand back and watch, guilt-free. Because anything that falls apart when you stop holding it up was never real to begin with. But instead of guilt, you feel freedom. You see it now: relationships, friendships, even family ties that survive only because you carry the load were never healthy. The truth is, you were the one doing the heavy lifting, but it was never your responsibility to hold them up. You are the chosen one. And chosen ones do not waste sacred energy on those who expect them to do all the work. So you stand firm now, unshaken, unbothered. Let them unravel if they must. You are too busy building a future without apology, without guilt, and without ever looking back. Number 7, don't shrink to fit in. Your new energy was never meant to blend, it was designed to shake the room. This isn't a small adjustment, it's a rebirth. You've walked the same streets, spoken to the same people, lived in the same world, but you are no longer the person they once knew. And truthfully, even you hardly recognize yourself. You feel different, stronger, rooted, unmovable. A stranger to who you were, yet more aligned than ever with who you are. This energy is weighty, not as a burden, but as authority. It demands space. It commands attention. It cannot be denied. Once, you shrank yourself to fit into spaces you were never designed to occupy. You silenced your voice, dimmed your light, erased pieces of yourself just to avoid making others uneasy. You bent low to blend in when you were destined to stand out. But now, the energy you carry cannot be hidden. You step into a room and people feel you before you speak. Your presence does not need announcement, it announces itself. You are walking into a version of yourself so new, it feels almost unrecognizable. The old you, the one who second-guessed, who over-explained, who bowed to keep others comfortable, is only a shadow in your rear view. And when that shadow whispers doubts, trying to pull you back, you no longer listen. This energy may feel foreign, but it is right. It is not arrogance. It is not pride. It is sovereignty. It is the deep, unwavering knowing that your worth is not up for debate. You no longer beg for a seat at the table. You've realized the table itself is yours to build. This shift in your energy unsettles them. You've seen it, the sideways glances, the whispers. Some say you've changed. Others act as if they no longer recognize you. But the truth is simple. They are not used to seeing you walk in your power. They are not used to you claiming your worth without apology. What they miss is not you. It is the version of you that bent over backwards to keep them pleased. But that version is gone. You've stopped asking for permission. You've stopped shrinking. The truth is, you were never living as your full self before you were surviving. You were afraid of rejection, afraid of being too much. But now, you stand firm, unmovable. Even if it feels unfamiliar, it feels right. This energy is your birthright, and you are only beginning. Number 8, break free from the nice trap. Because nice was never kindness, it was conditioning. For years, you wore it like a badge of honor, convinced it was who you were. You gave the benefit of the doubt too quickly, forgave too easily, bent too far to avoid conflict. You buried your truth under layers of politeness, silencing your voice so others could amplify theirs. You thought being agreeable made you likable and keeping the peace made you good. But let's be honest, what you were really doing was shrinking yourself so others could feel comfortable. You were trained for it, conditioned from childhood to bend, to soften, to silence. You learned that yes made you lovable while no made you rude. That standing tall meant aggression, and putting your needs first meant selfishness. But now, you see through the illusion. Nice was never about kindness. Nice was about control. They wanted you docile, easily guilted, easily manipulated. They fed on your fear of rejection, on your hunger to be accepted. And so you tolerated disrespect. You swallowed your voice. You smiled through pain. You played the peacemaker while your soul was at war, all to keep people who were never yours to keep. But in the end, you weren't losing them, you were losing yourself. You were not being loved, you were being used. You were not being respected, you were being controlled. And the day you saw the truth, everything shifted. You've realized true kindness was never about pleasing others. It is not servitude. It is strength. Kindness is knowing when and where to pour your energy. Niceness was the weapon they used to keep you small, to keep you obedient. But kindness, that is power. It is intentional. It is discerning. It is selective. You no longer scatter your light carelessly. You give it where it is valued, where it is honored, not out of fear of rejection, not out of desperation to keep someone. The day you stopped being nice just to please was the day you found freedom. You stopped betraying yourself for their comfort. You stopped caring if your truth disturbed them, and that was the beginning of your true transformation. Because you are not merely nice, you are chosen. And now you choose who has the privilege of your presence, who gets access to your light. Number 9, scare them with your independence. That is how you know you're growing. There was a time when you poured endless energy into fitting the boxes others built for you. You bent and twisted yourself, chasing approval, fearing rejection. You cared more for their opinions than your own peace. You became predictable, safe, easy to read, the watered-down version of yourself. You laid down your power to buy their acceptance. But that version of you is gone, dead. Now you no longer care for their validation. You no longer explain yourself, no longer apologize for existing. And without even trying, you've become intimidating. Not because you are arrogant, not because you are cruel, but because you finally stepped into your power. Independence unsettles them. It rattles their illusions of control. You no longer shrink, you no longer chase, you no longer seek permission. You stand firm, unshaken, unbothered, uncontainable. And that, more than anything, terrifies those who once thrived on your compliance. And that, my friend, is terrifying to those who once controlled your every move. There is nothing more unsettling than someone who owes them nothing. They don't know how to handle a soul that takes up space unapologetically. They don't know what to do with someone who fears nothing about being fully, completely themselves. So when they whisper, "You've changed," "You're distant," "You've become cold," understand they are right. That old version of you, the one who bowed, who bent, who shrank it, is gone. But here's the reality: you owe them no explanation. You are not responsible for their discomfort. You are not accountable for their insecurities when you refuse to carry their projections. If your strength threatens them, if your boundaries disturb them, that is their burden to face, not yours. You were never sent here to make others feel big by staying small. You were sent here to be whole, unapologetic, and free. And if your confidence shakes their foundation, let it shake. If your presence unsettles them, let it. You are not here to be palatable. You are not here to be easy. You are here to be you. And if that scares them, so be it. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. Your truth is. And there is nothing more powerful than a soul that no longer apologizes for simply existing. Number 10, reject love without respect. Because love without respect is not love at all, it is manipulation in disguise. For too long you were sold a lie. You were told that love should be unconditional, that it should always be warm, always accepting. But let's be real, love that demands you shrink is not love. Love that requires you to dim, to silence, to become less than you are, that is control, dressed in affection. You were conditioned to believe that as long as you kept giving, agreeing, serving, love would be yours. But the moment you began to set boundaries, the moment you stopped accepting scraps disguised as affection, the illusion cracked. Suddenly, their love wasn't so warm. Suddenly, their care wasn't so unconditional. The affection felt hollow, like a mask with cracks, revealing the truth. It was never love, it was control. They wanted your silence, your compliance, your endless giving without expectation. But now your eyes are open. You know real love does not demand you betray your values. Real love does not ask you to sacrifice your peace for someone else's comfort. It carries no hidden strings, no threats of abandonment if you refuse to obey. Real love respects. And now you demand respect first. The version of you that bent, that compromised, that accepted counterfeit affection to avoid conflict, that version is dead. You no longer tolerate manipulation dressed as care. You stand tall now, whole and unapologetic. And when you did, everything shifted. People started to fall away. But hear me, their leaving is not proof that you've done something wrong. It is proof they can no longer control you. They can no longer twist your kindness into servitude. They can no longer keep you in the box that served their needs. So they call you selfish. They say you've changed, but what they really mean is this: they can no longer use you. You've raised your standards, and now they struggle to keep up. Because you've learned something they may never understand: attachment is not love. Real love does not shrink you. It does not manipulate. It does not demand. It simply is. And now that you know this truth, you will never settle for less again. Number 11. Notice who goes silent when you succeed. Those are not your people. For so long you wore the blindfold of false support. The ones around you seemed like cheerleaders, but their applause only rang loud when your dreams were small enough to be contained. They smiled when you whispered your ambitions, nodded politely when you spoke of your goals, clapped just enough to keep you convinced they were rooting for you. But now that you've stepped into your power, the atmosphere has shifted. It's subtle, but you can feel it. Their congratulations sound hollow and echo without life. When you rise, they fall silent. When you struggle, suddenly they have endless advice, endless concern. That is when the truth strikes. You realize they never wanted you to fail outright. No, they simply never wanted you to outgrow them. They were comfortable when you doubted yourself, when you leaned on them, when you needed their permission to move forward. You were safe to them when you were small enough to control. They praised you when you second-guessed every step, when you sought their validation like oxygen. But now you've changed. You've grown. You no longer bow for approval. You no longer wait for permission. You walk with the unshakable confidence of someone who knows their worth. And that rattles them. Because deep down, they never saw you as an equal. They saw you beneath them, always looking up, always depending. They enjoyed being the guide, the answer, the authority. Your growth has stripped them of that illusion, and without control, they are exposed. Number 12, don't trust the ones who miss the old you. They don't miss your heart, they miss their hold on it. For too long, you were the hidden doormat, letting others trample across your boundaries because you believed it was the right thing to do. You were always available, always listening, always bending, even when it broke you. You placed everyone else's needs above your own. You gave second chances where there should have been none. You ignored the red flags that screamed for your attention. And they loved that version of you. They loved the fixer, the one who carried burdens that were never hers, the one who bent reality to keep peace, who sacrificed her own comfort so others could stay secure. But that was never love, it was convenience. They weren't invested in you. They were invested in your availability, in the endless energy you poured out, in the way you made their lives easier while your own spirit bled dry. But now you've changed. Not in the way they claim, not cold, not selfish, not cruel. You've simply stopped tolerating nonsense. You've stopped offering yourself as a sacrifice at the altar of their comfort. And that, chosen one, is the beginning of true freedom. You stopped responding to manipulation with a smile. You stopped making excuses for those who refuse to take accountability. And that is why they are rattled. When they say you've changed, what they really mean is, I can't control you anymore. When they say, you're acting different, they're confessing, you no longer let me take advantage of you. And when they say, I miss the old you, they are admitting, I miss the version of you that was easy to manipulate. But here is the hard truth. Their frustration is your confirmation. It is proof that you are walking the right path. Because the only ones angered by your boundaries are the ones who once fed on your lack of them. The only ones who resent your strength are those who once thrived off your weakness. They will try to twist it. They will say you're mean. They will accuse you of not caring. They will claim you're selfish. But deep down, you know the truth. Kindness is not the same as being a doormat. Respecting yourself does not make you cruel. And choosing yourself first does not make you heartless. So let them wrestle with the fact that they can no longer use you. Let them sit in the discomfort of their own consequences. Because here is the reality: your growth does not destroy real love, it only destroys control. And what cannot survive your boundaries was never meant for you. Number 13, embrace the sacred loneliness. This is not abandonment. It is appointment with your highest self. There will come a season when the noise falls away, when the familiar voices that once filled your days grow distant, when the spaces around you stretch wide and quiet, and in that stillness, something profound will happen. You will meet yourself without the distortion of others' expectations, without the interference of their projections, without the constant need to translate your truth into their language. This is not the loneliness of rejection. This is not the emptiness of being unwanted. This is the sacred space that opens when you stop filling every corner of your life with people who were never meant to inhabit your soul. You have spent years crowding your existence with voices that drowned out your own, with energies that pulled you in directions your spirit never wanted to go. But now, the chosen one learns the difference between being alone and being lonely, and discovers that solitude can be the most holy of communions. In the beginning, the silence may feel foreign. Your mind, trained to seek validation, to reach for phones, to fill empty moments, with familiar chaos, will resist. It will whisper that something is wrong, that you have pushed too far, that perhaps you should return to the comfortable noise of dysfunction. But do not mistake this discomfort for error. This is withdrawal from an addiction you never realized you had: the addiction to external approval, to constant companionship, to never having to sit with the fullness of who you are. Because here is what they never told you. Your soul has been waiting for this appointment. Beneath all the people-pleasing, beneath all the overgiving, beneath all the bending and breaking to fit into spaces too small for your spirit, your truest self has been patient, waiting for the moment when the room would finally empty enough for you to hear your own heartbeat, to know your own thoughts before they were filtered through someone else's comfort. This sacred loneliness is not about becoming a hermit. It is about becoming discerning. It is about learning to be so comfortable in your own presence that you never again accept mediocre company just to avoid being alone. It is about discovering that your own thoughts are worthy of your time, that your own dreams are worthy of your attention, that your own peace is worth protecting, even if it means dining alone, walking alone, sitting with your own reflections instead of drowning them in endless chatter. And in this space, this holy, uninterrupted space, you will begin to hear things that were always there but could never break through the noise. You will hear your intuition speaking clearly, no longer competing with the opinions of those who never truly knew you. You will hear your desires without the shame that others projected onto them. You will hear your boundaries before they are crossed, your truth before it is twisted, your power before it is dimmed. The world will not understand this season. They will call you antisocial, distant, changed. They will say you have built walls when in reality, you have simply stopped tearing down the boundaries that protect your sacred space. They will say you have become cold when you have simply learned the difference between warmth and being set on fire for someone else's comfort. But you, chosen one, will know the truth. In this sacred loneliness, you are not hiding from the world, you are preparing to meet it as your authentic self. You are not running from connection, you are raising your standards for what true connection looks like. You are not becoming less, you are finally becoming whole. And when you emerge from this season, and you will emerge, you will carry something unshakable, the knowledge that you are complete within yourself, that your worth does not depend on their presence, your peace does not require their approval, and your joy does not need their permission. You will move through the world untouchable, not because you have closed your heart, but because you have finally opened it to the one person who was always meant to live there, you. This sacred loneliness is not a punishment for choosing yourself. It is the reward. It is the universe clearing the path so you can finally walk in the full magnitude of who you were always meant to be. And in that solitude, you will discover the most profound truth of all. You were never meant to need anyone to feel complete. You were meant to choose them from a place of abundance, not desperation. From strength, not scarcity. From love, not fear. The silence is not empty. It is full of possibility, full of peace, full of the presence of the one soul you were always meant to know most intimately. Your own Oron. Number 14. Master the Art of Discernment. Not everyone who resists your growth is your enemy, but not everyone who accepts it is your friend. In the sacred space of your solitude, you have learned to hear your own voice. Now comes the deeper test, learning to read the voices of others with the same clarity. This is not about becoming cynical or closed-hearted. This is about becoming wise. For too long, you operated from a place of desperate hope, giving chances to those who had already shown you their true nature. You confused potential with reality, mistook promises for patterns. You gave your energy to anyone who whispered the right words, who showed the slightest glimmer of understanding. But now, awakened and discerning, you see beyond the surface performance. There is a difference between someone who is uncomfortable with your transformation and someone who is actively undermining it. The uncomfortable ones, they may ask questions, they may seem confused, they may even express concern, but they are not attacking your character. They are not trying to manipulate you back into your cage. They are simply witnessing a version of you they have never seen, and like anyone facing change, they need time to adjust their understanding. But then there are the others. The ones who smile while sharpening knives. The ones who praise your growth to your face while poisoning others against you behind your back. The ones who cannot celebrate your wins without immediately finding ways to diminish them. These are not people struggling with your evolution. These are people threatened by your liberation. And there is a profound difference. The uncomfortable ones will eventually come around, or they will respectfully step back. They will not wage war against your peace. They will not launch campaigns to convince others that your boundaries are evidence of your cruelty. They will not twist your kindness into manipulation or your strength into aggression. They may not understand your journey, but they will not actively sabotage it. But those who are threatened, they will try to pull you back into the familiar dance of dysfunction. They will remind you of who you used to be, not out of nostalgia, but out of control. They will tell stories of your past mistakes to keep you imprisoned by guilt. They will offer conditional love that comes with invisible chains. They will make you feel guilty for evolving past their capacity to control you. Here is where discernment becomes your superpower. You learn to recognize the difference between someone who needs time to adjust and someone who needs you to stay small. One deserves patience. The other deserves distance. One is processing change. The other is resisting your freedom. The art of discernment means you no longer treat everyone's discomfort with your growth as equal. You no longer bend over backwards to soothe those who are threatened by your strength. You no longer apologize to those who preferred you weak, broken, manageable. Instead, you extend grace to those who are genuinely trying to understand, while firmly protecting your energy from those who are actively working against your peace. This is not about becoming harsh or unforgiving. This is about becoming strategically compassionate. Your empathy becomes a choice, not a compulsion. Your kindness becomes intentional, not automatic. You love people enough to hold space for their confusion, but you love yourself enough to refuse their manipulation. And here lies the profound shift. You realize that not every relationship is meant to survive your transformation. Some people were only meant to walk with you during the season when you were lost. When you find yourself, when you step into your power, when you claim your worth, their purpose in your story ends. This is not failure. This is completion. The truly aligned ones, the ones meant for your new chapter, will not be threatened by your growth. They will be inspired by it. They will ask how they can grow too, not how they can shrink you back down. They will celebrate your boundaries, not test them. They will honor your transformation, not mourn your old limitations. Discernment teaches you that everyone's opinion of your journey is not equally valid. Not everyone's comfort with your choices deserves equal consideration. Not everyone's resistance to your growth requires your explanation. You learn to distinguish between feedback that serves your evolution and criticism that serves their ego. This is the wisdom that emerges from sacred solitude, the ability to see people clearly, to love them appropriately, and to engage with them wisely. You no longer give everyone the same access to your energy. You no longer treat every relationship as if it carries the same weight. You learn to calibrate your investment based on their capacity to honor what you are becoming. And in this discernment, you find a deeper freedom, the freedom to love people without needing them to understand you, to wish them well without needing to walk with them, to honor their journey without sacrificing your own. This is not coldness. This is mastery. Number 15. Watch how the universe sends your tribe. They will not come disguised as your old patterns. They will come as your new reality. There is a sacred mathematics to transformation. For every inauthentic connection you release, space opens for an authentic one to enter. The universe abhors a vacuum, and when you empty your life of wrong-fit people, you create a magnetic field that draws the right ones home. But here is what they don't tell you about attracting your tribe. They will not look like the people you used to chase. They will not love you the way you were conditioned to expect love. They will not need you to prove your worth through endless giving, through shrinking, through performing your value. Instead, they will be drawn to the very qualities that scared others away: your boundaries, your authenticity, your refusal to dim your light. You will know them by how effortless it feels. After years of forcing connections, of working overtime to maintain relationships that drained you, your people will feel like coming home. There will be no walking on eggshells, no translating your truth into digestible portions, no apologizing for taking up space. With them, you will exhale fully for the first time in years. They will not be threatened by your growth. They will be inspired by it. They will not ask you to explain your boundaries. They will respect them instinctively. They will not need you to prove your transformation. They will see it, honor it, and celebrate it. These are the ones who are waiting for you to become who you truly are, because only the real you could recognize the real them. And here lies the mystery. Your tribe was always there, but your old energy could not see them. When you were vibrating at the frequency of people-pleasing, you were invisible to those operating from self-respect. When you were attracting energy vampires, you were repelling energy givers. When you were accepting breadcrumbs, you were blind to those offering full meals. Your transformation did not just change you, it changed your capacity to perceive and attract alignment. They will appear in the most unexpected ways. The colleague who notices your new boundaries and respects them without question. The friend who celebrates your wins without trying to one-up them. The romantic interest who loves your independence instead of fearing it. The mentor who sees your potential without needing to control your path. They will not all arrive at once, but they will arrive, each one confirmation that you made the right choice to honor yourself. But here is the crucial difference. You will not need them the way you once needed others. You will want their company, enjoy their energy, value their presence, but you will not depend on them for your sense of worth. You will love them from a place of abundance, not desperation. From strength, not neediness. From choice, not fear of abandonment. This is what makes the connection sacred. It is free. Your old relationships were built on transaction. You gave to get, you performed to be loved, you shrunk to be accepted. But your new tribe operates on a different currency: mutual respect, genuine appreciation, authentic connection. They will not stay because you make their lives easier. They will stay because life is richer with you in it. They will not love the role you play. They will love the person you are. And when conflict arises, because growth requires friction, it will look different too. They will not attack your character when they disagree with your choices. They will not weaponize your past mistakes to win present arguments. They will not threaten to leave every time you don't meet their expectations. Instead, they will navigate differences with respect, communicate boundaries with love, and work through challenges without trying to diminish your worth. You will recognize your tribe by their consistency. They will not love you conditionally based on your willingness to serve their needs. They will not hot and cold you based on their moods. They will not punish you for having bad days or reward you for sacrificing yourself. They will be steady, reliable, present not because they owe you, but because they choose you daily. But perhaps most importantly, they will grow alongside you. They will not try to keep you frozen in one version of yourself for their comfort. They will celebrate your evolution, encourage your expansion, and support your continued transformation. They will not fear losing you to your growth. They will trust that your growth only makes the connection deeper. This is the gift that emerges from your courage to walk away from what was not meant for you, the space for what is. Your tribe is not a reward for your suffering. It is the natural consequence of your alignment. They were always meant to find you, but first, you had to become findable. First, you had to clear the noise so their signal could reach you. First, you had to love yourself enough to believe you deserved their love in return. And now, surrounded by those who see you, celebrate you, and choose you, not the mask you wore, but the truth you are, you understand that the loneliness was not a punishment. It was preparation. It was the universe making room for a love so authentic, so aligned, so real that your old self could never have recognized it. But this version of you awakened, discerning whole, knows exactly what it is, home. The throne was never meant to break you. It was meant to break you open. Here you stand now, chosen one, no longer the person who began this journey. The boundaries you once feared to set have become the foundation of your empire. The silence you once mistook for emptiness has revealed itself as the deepest form of communication with yourself, with the universe, with the truth that was always waiting beneath the noise. You have learned that transformation is not about becoming someone new. It is about returning to who you always were before the world convinced you to be smaller, before you learned to apologize for your light, before you were taught that your worth was negotiable, your voice was too loud, your dreams too big, your standards too high. Every boundary you set was an act of self-love. Every explanation you refused to give was a declaration of your sovereignty. Every relationship you walked away from was a choice to walk toward yourself. Every moment you chose solitude over settling was a moment you chose your soul over their comfort. And every person you released created space for the ones meant to witness your full magnificence. The critics, the manipulators, the energy vampires, they served their purpose too. They were the pressure that revealed your strength, the darkness that highlighted your light, the chaos that taught you the value of your peace. They showed you what you would no longer accept, and in doing so, they showed you what you truly deserve. Even your betrayers were teachers, though they never meant to be. They taught you that your intuition was always right, your boundaries were always necessary, and your standards were never too high. You are not the same person who once begged for scraps of affection, who twisted yourself into impossible shapes to fit into spaces too small for your spirit. That version of you, beautiful, well-meaning, but lost, has been transformed by fire into something unbreakable. You have learned to love without losing yourself, to give without depleting yourself, to care without sacrificing yourself. And now you know the deepest truth of all. You were never meant to be understood by everyone. You were meant to be authentic to yourself. You were never meant to be liked by all. You were meant to be respected by those who matter. You were never meant to fit in everywhere. You were meant to belong fully in your own life. The chosen ones do not choose the easy path. They choose the authentic one. They do not seek the widest circle. They seek the truest one. They do not aim to be comfortable. They aim to be complete. And in that completion, they become a beacon for others still finding their way out of their own cages, still learning to honor their own worth, still discovering that they too are chosen. Your transformation is not a destination, it is a way of being. It is the commitment to never again abandon yourself for someone else's approval. It is the promise to never again silence your truth for someone else's comfort. It is the vow to never again shrink your light so others can avoid examining their own darkness. You have unlocked the greatest power of all, the power to be yourself, unapologetically, completely, fearlessly. And in that power you have found your peace, your purpose, and your people. The throne that was cast in your path to block you has become the very seat from which you now reign, not over others, but over your own life, your own choices, your own destiny. This is your time, chosen one. This is your moment. This is your reign. The universe has been waiting for you to remember who you are. Now that you have, there is no force on earth that can convince you to forget again.